Okay, hello and welcome everyone. In this video, I'm going to give us a sort of general broad overview of some of the important concepts pertaining to economic evaluation. So the first one is cost of illness studies. The basic idea with cost of illness studies is you want to determine what's going to be the cost of the particular condition, like what's the loss involved. Here we're thinking of the cost as the true economic burden of being afflicted by whatever is the particular illness in this case. That said, given that we're focusing only on the cost side and not on the benefit side, it's not a true economic evaluation in the truest sense. The economic evaluation, of course, is going to weight costs and benefits. But this is going to be a good first pass. It's useful in terms of determining the cost associated with treating a particular illness, because this can be a sort of a first course of action if there's further economic evaluation we ultimately want to pursue. Right? The goal is, well, this can give us a determination of the relevant costs, which we need to do anyway if you want to do some further economic analysis. This sort of idea with cost of illness studies. Next, we'll talk about cost-benefit analysis. So what economists are going to do is they're going to say, well, when we're doing a cost-benefit analysis, we want to consider the full set of costs and the full set of benefits. We want to think about opportunity costs. We want to think about all the benefits, and we want to do this over time, actually. And so along with supply and demand, cost-benefit analysis is something you probably come in with some understanding of. But what we want to do and we want to emphasize specifically from economics is, for a cost-benefit analysis, you want to think in terms of the full set of costs and full set of benefits. Now, in order to do this, since we're including opportunity cost, we ultimately need to be able to translate into a unit of comparison, which is often going to be dollar amounts. It's not the case that economists are obsessed with money or anything like that. It's just that dollars are going to be our unit of measure. It's just going to be a measuring stick, right? To do this really well, in a true dynamic model, we'd incorporate the fact that there's a short term and there's a long run. Matter of fact, like over time, we want to think about how these costs and benefits might change. And to do so, to incorporate the future, we need something to measure the time value of money through discounting. This involves a little layer of complexity. That said, sometimes people can be uncomfortable seeing, well, we're translating costs and benefits of like human lives into dollar amounts. Remember, there again, we are indeed just using dollars as a measuring stick. That said, of course, there's going to be some aspects to that approach that are going to strike people as maybe not as caring as necessary. So for this reason, well, for many others besides, we might consider truly the cost-effectiveness analysis. And this is going to be the version that actually is going to be implemented most prevalently. What cost-effectiveness analysis is doing is it's really taking constrained optimization to heart. Remember, constrained optimization is saying, let's try to do the best we can given the circumstances. So here we're trying to maximize the level of health for some population given whatever is the budgetary consideration. The idea here is relative to the cost of several different treatment options. We want to be able to, given some possible single common consequence, we want to think about what's going to differ across these options. And so relative to the cost of several different treatment options for some single common consequence differing across those options, like blood pressure reduction, increased life expectancy, and so on, we want to think about how the different options compare. Now, rather than using monetary evaluations here, again, as that was one of the criticisms with the cost-benefit analysis, here we'll use utility measures. So what does that look like? I may actually kind of skip ahead. For utility measures, we might use QALYs, quality of life measures. Quality of life measure, the quality of life adjusted year. It's going to capture both the reduced morbidity, right, and the improved quality of life, with also the reduced mortality, the increased quality of life. So the idea is we have these life expectancies that are going to be weighted by quality weights on each year. Now, one of the issues is that how do you measure quality of life? This is going to be subjective relative to somebody's preferences. But the idea is we're saying, okay, well, let's translate the number of years in one health state to the equivalent and often smaller number of years of perfect health. The idea is we want to think of like what's going to be the quality of life weighted over however much time is involved. Okay. So going back to cost-effectiveness analysis, how is this going to work? Well, the steps are going to, following Henderson, is going to rank the alternative treatment options by health benefit from low to high. eliminate the strictly dominated treatment alternatives that are more costly, less effective. So you can find out, okay, well, we want incrementally what are going to be the most effectiveness per the cost and get rid of the worst ones. Calculate, to do this, the incremental cost effectiveness ratio, the ICER, between each treatment and the next most expensive option. I'll talk about what that is in the next slide. And then eliminate the treatment options that display extended dominance. So you want to continue to look and see which are going to be the ones that are going to be worse off. Determine which treatment options have an ICER below some threshold, ICER, and then determine which is going to be the best that from among the possible options. Basic idea with this, you kind of think of like a sort of a subset or special case of cost effectiveness analysis is the cost utility analysis, which uses the qualities mentioned earlier. Here, the objective measure, the cost that this type of cost effectiveness analysis uses, is indeed the ICER, the incremental cost effectiveness ratio. And what this is doing is this is saying, okay, let's take the cost of treatment B minus the cost of treatment A divided by the effectiveness of treatment B minus the effectiveness of treatment A. Essentially, it's the differences in costs between treatments divided by the differences in clinical effectiveness. And the idea is we want to find incrementally what's going to be the situation, again, where the marginal benefit relative to the marginal cost is higher for a particular treatment. In this case, we're comparing what's the cost. We want low costs relative to large benefits. So we want to think of can we justify an incremental increase in cost on the basis of an incremental increase in effectiveness or not. And then this helps decide between different types of treatment options, given their effectiveness and given their costs.